Hello, dear friends. It's very common for the dark side to accuse its rivals of crimes they themselves commit. It's the oldest trick in the world. Opinion piece, hidden technology, spiritual values, window of events, cosmic experiment, digital manipulation, energy system collapse, black budget initiatives, quantum entanglement networks, exotic reverse engineering systems. The world will change without our permission. Let's start. A technological revolution is a process of profound transformation that involves the introduction and accelerated adoption of new technologies, processes, and industries capable of radically transforming the economy, society, and forms of organization, production, and distribution. It translates into profound changes in daily life, work methods, and social relations, generating as many opportunities as challenges. Ariel Proletario 1 reveals operational details about classified emerging technologies developed within deep underground bases, drawn for compartmentalized assessments and intercepted project records. There are more than 130 active facilities in the US alone, interconnected by magnetic levitation networks, spanning thousands of miles, and hosting black budget initiatives totaling trillions annually, exempt from oversight. The technologies described represent paradigm-shifting capabilities, poised to redefine global power dynamics, resource control, and human augmentation. Their deployment could precipitate social upheaval, rendering conventional defenses obsolete. Public disclosure would ignite mass unrest, and containment is considered paramount. Quantum entanglement networks imply instantaneous global dominance. Paired quantum particles enable signal-free data transfer between hemispheres, circumventing the limitations of the speed of light and electronic warfare. Deployed on Spacecom satellites and underground command nodes, these networks allow for real-time location of adversaries. For example, the position of an operative in Beijing relayed from Huntsville, Alabama, to guide rather invisible Mach 20 hypersonic munitions. It is also believed that Nicolás Maduro is being tracked and located in real time by these networks, no matter how hard he tries to hide. Exotic reverse engineered systems are of non-human origin, such as anti-gravity propulsion, produced from interdimensional craft. These engines power silent aero vehicles housed underground, as in Pine Gap, Australia. Scalar wave propulsion manipulates gravitational fields, allowing for instant relocation and deflective shielding against kinetic impacts. It was tested in the 1979 Dulce, New Mexico clashes, which resulted in 66 casualties. Window of events. Dabo 77 discusses the acceleration of events and global changes and mentions that he expects to see more significant events in the coming days, considering that the Charlie Kirk case opened the window of events. He wants that the financial system is transitioning toward digital assets and blockchain, and emphasizes that traceability and total control are in the hands of the financial elites. He recommends caution with investments, urging diversification into assets such as physical gold and silver. He mentions that Trump blocked the development of the central bank digital dollar, but launched his own cryptocurrencies such as Trump Coin and Melania Coin. He emphasizes that gold is at all-time highs and expected to soon exceed $5,000, putting the $5 trajectory in decline and elevating precious metals as a key safe haven. DABU 77 underlines the importance of civil resistance and local self-sufficiency in the face of potential systemic crisis, and highlights the trend toward increasing social pressure, the demonetization of the system, and tensions that could trigger organized violence and profound legislative changes. Galactic intervention. A galactic intervention prevented a terrorist attack at the Charlie Kirk Memorial, according to Ismael Perez. According to him, during the Charlie Kirk Memorial, the energy was directed toward strengthening spiritual intention and mass awakening and the galactic protection. An attempted attack was even thwarted thanks to advanced technologies and the intervention of multidimensional allies. He presented the Charlie Kirk Memorial as a catalyst for restoring the family and the essential principles of the law of one, in tune with the cosmic teaching of Christ. Spirituality is thus presented as a universal way of life in advanced civilizations, not as a dogmatic religion. Ismael Perez explains that the true process of transformation is spiritual and is oriented toward restoring the kingdom of God on earth to prepare humanity for the Golden Age. He mentions that galactic intervention and the energies of the eclipse have accelerated the bifurcation of the timelines, directing humanity toward the destiny of sovereignty, love, and light. The struggle for energetic decentralization, the battle for spiritual sovereignty, and the awakening of Christ consciousness are the central themes framing the current period as the greatest change in human history. RFK Jr. warns about the use of algorithms and artificial intelligence systems that manipulate humanity's reptilian brain, fostering fear and division. Therefore, he emphasizes the importance of the Christ flame and the spiritual awakening to neutralize this control mechanism. Ismael Perez describes how the coalition took advantage of an eclipse to carry out spiritual resurgence, turning that what was historically been a dark moment into an act of light and collective consciousness. Perez points out that rising energy prices in Europe are a tactic of the dark side to resist the advance of free technologies based on Tesla's legacy and decentralization. He claims that the Space Force is experimenting with wireless energy systems and that the transition is irreversible, affecting the interest of the British monarchy. Therefore, King Charles was reportedly hospitalized after receiving direct information from Trump about these changes. He highlights the declaration of Antifa as a terrorist group and that this movement was replicated internationally, beginning in the Netherlands and Hungary, and generating a chain reaction in Europe. He links Antifa's structure to state intelligence interests and globalist networks, with the mission of destabilizing national identity and traditional spiritual values. Breaking news. The debate of the 80th session of the UN General Assembly begins in New York. Guterres warns that the principles of the United Nations are under siege. Trump calls to the UN to end the failed experiment with open borders. The US Secret Service thwarted an electronic threat before the start of the UN General Assembly. The global water cycle is out of control, according to the World Meteorological Organization. Economy. Powell acknowledges that the Fed is in a difficult situation. Powell warns that inflation could spiral out of control if the Fed lowers rates too aggressively. China wants to become a giant bolt to protect the gold of its geopolitical allies. Middle East. 10 new countries recognize the State of Palestine. The Red Crescent Hospital in Gaza City is under siege. Israel will close the border crossing between the West Bank and Jordan until further notice. Priests in Rome march to parliament in solidarity with the Palestinians. Europe. Copenhagen and Oslo closed their airports for several hours due to the presence of drones. Germany is closing its airports for several hours due to the presence of drones. No, this is a false news. This is a false news about translation. Germany is sinking because it's abandoning Russian gas, and the Germans know it. The Netherlands is finalizing an agreement with Uganda to send asylum seekers it rejected. Thousands of motorcyclists gather in Fatima for the annual helmet blessing. Spain. Spain is among the safest countries in Europe. The OECD raises its forecast for Spain, which will grow by 2.6% in 2025 and 2% in 2026. Spain will not increase its defense spending by more than 2% in 2026. The government reiterates its offer of 400 million to install the largest telescope in Northern Hemisphere in the Canary Islands. The Spanish Congress observed a minute of silence for the victims in Gaza. The government approves the embargo on arms and military fuel to Israel. Spain suffers another legal defeat in the US over a ruling on renewable energy. Housing. Spain leads the way in terms of paying taxes when purchasing a property. Spain and Belgium are the most expensive countries in Europe in terms of taxes to buy a home. The Bank of Spain warns that the housing deficit will increase by 100,000 more by 2025. Madrid enters the top 10 cities at risk of a real estate bubble. Americas. The OECD improves its economic growth forecast for Mexico. Alcohol consumption in Mexico cost the country 2.1% of its GDP. Mexican authorities identified more than 50,000 concessions for illegal water tapping. The Costa Rican parliament fails in its attempt to remove President Rodrigo Chavez's immunity. Argentine agriculture celebrates the elimination of grain taxes. Milei is negotiating a US military presence in Argentina in exchange for financial aid. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.